Congresswoman, I mean, come on, I paid my school bill.
Of $100, right?
Why Americans, what's going on here? This seems to be a bit bizarre. And now
Well,
we're seeing people picketing like, oh, that's our right. It's not American. It's a law. You ought to do that. This is crazy.
Well, they've been taught about this from Hillary Clinton to Bernie Sanders, that you should not have to pay your own bills.
Okay, what? Bernie Sanders is a self-avowed socialist, and he does not even believe that you shouldn't have to pay your own bills. You know what socialism is really? I mean, they're always propagandizing about this, but let me explain what socialism actually is. I wanted to start a nonprofit organization a while back, right? And I still intend to do that, but it's going to take a little time and effort before I am capable of doing something like that. So I can't start a nonprofit right now. But when I started it, I looked through all of the paperwork and the expectations and all of that other stuff. And basically the way it works is no one person owns a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. No one person owns it. Like, you can be a founder for this organization, but as somebody who creates it, you have to list a board on the paperwork that you file to start this organization. There have to be like a number of board seats listed, and the board votes on everything. So that's the internal structure of a 501c3. The board can even vote to kick you out completely, so you're no longer involved. The organization takes on a life of its own, and the stakeholders involved benefit from it. And everybody, all the way from the board members to the president, all the way down to the managers of the organization, are all voted on. In some cases, not in every case. But voting on who does what job and on people's pay and things like that is built right into the structure of a 501c3 organization. Socialism is where that's the case with every private company. When a private company is started, a board is created, and the board votes on everything from who the president is to how much the people under them are paid to absolutely everything. That's what socialism actually is. That would be the workers own the means of production and supply. The people that work at the company have a stake in the company that they work for and vote on everything from the top to the bottom. That's socialism. And it's just a different way of doing things, really. Not much more than that. It's not evil. It's not good. It's just, just a different way of doing it. That's it. That's all it is. Communism, on the other hand, that's a completely different thing that I'm not going to get into right now. But they're not the same. And people like Michelle Bachmann and Gene Bailey love to conflate the two. Socialism and communism are the same in their minds. So when Bernie Sanders says that he's a socialist, I don't think he is, actually. I don't think that he doesn't. I've never heard him advocate for, companies to operate that way. I think Bernie Sanders is actually in favor of privately owned companies. He just wants to heavily regulate them, put a limit on how much a company is allowed to earn before it starts paying in taxes and things like that, right? Which I'm in favor of. I'm actually a capitalist. I'm a regulated capitalist. I want heavy regulation. I want to put limits on how much these people make and how much they're allowed to make and all that other stuff. I think I would be willing to try a socialist system where a voting system and a union are baked right into, every private company, or there are no private companies, they're all owned by workers. I'd be willing to give that a shot, I think, but I'm really more of a capitalist with heavy regulation than anything. So, anyways, they don't understand, these two people, they don't understand that. I would be surprised if they have any idea what socialism is. They scream about it constantly. I deeply, to the bottom of my heart, doubt they have any clue what socialism is. It's certainly not what Michelle Bachmann just said, which is they don't have to pay their bills. That is absolutely absurd. People still have to pay their bills in a socialist society. Chandler Slesiak, hey, Owen, how's it going? And how's fam? Doing okay. Although my wife has COVID, I am coughing a lot, so there's that. I saw Joel Osteen was on TV in the McDonald's that I work at on Sunday. I thought that was weird, lol. That is weird. Like, do you have a TV up there? Who controls the TV channel? I guess he's kind of on, like, daytime talk shows or daytime TV, isn't he? I don't exactly know what channel he's on or anything, but, you know, it could be worse. He's still a televangelist, but he's one of the more mild televangelists as far as hatred goes. He'll still take advantage of you. He'll still lie to your face and all of that stuff, but it's not as bad as, like, Kenneth Copeland, for example, or some of the others. So what do you do at the McDonald's? You can just at me in the side if you want, and I'll keep a lookout for it. I'm just curious. When I worked at Burger King, I started out at the cash register. My boss felt like I wasn't good enough to be the guy in the back that made burgers. Felt like I was a pretty face that had to stay up front, I guess. I don't know. I noticed that it was all men that worked in the back, all women that worked up front, almost exclusively. Except for me, of course. I worked up front, worked the drive-thru for a while. All women and kids, all women and teenagers worked the drive-thru and the cash register. My boss back then was actually an ex-Jehovah's Witness, too. He was an ex-Jehovah's Witness turned Pentecostal. And he was desperate to convince me to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. But he didn't want to do it until I turned 18. Because, I don't know, I guess there would be some conflict with my parents or something. But by the time I turned 18, I had left, so. I am a cook, but I am trained to do pretty much everything there now. Yeah, same. Eventually, I could do everything. All the way down to, like, unloading trucks and stuff. Although usually the truck guy would just carry stuff in, but sometimes we had to help him. I could do absolutely everything. I could change the syrup, I could unload the trucks. I could do everything except for the manager stuff. I couldn't do manager stuff, like payroll. I still am working at my first job in fast food, and my experience has been good so far. My coworkers, the customers, good. Just the same old tasks. Yeah, it's not bad. It's tolerable. I had a good time at Burger King, you know. They were all nice and cool and funny, and it was not terrible. Could be worse, but it could be better as well. For one thing, I guarantee the pay is complete fucking garbage. You're being paid less than you're worth. Unfortunately, that's all you can get in fast food. That amount. They won't give you more because they don't believe you're worth more, apparently. They don't believe anybody is worth more. Something I discovered when I was working in software is when you get to a certain level, they will bend over backwards to make you comfortable. Like right now, if you want to take a sick day, you've got to get on the schedule, tell the schedule person that you're taking a vacation or something for this day. If you want to take a vacation, you have to tell them about it beforehand, right? If you want to take a sick day, you have to have somebody cover your shift for you. Well, when you get into like upper levels of companies, like when you're middle management at McDonald's, working at a corporate store or something, you get 2 to 4 weeks off per year. No questions asked. You can do whatever you want. It's no big deal. You can come in anytime. Your schedule's flexible. They give you, 70, 80,000 a year. Everything is awesome. Hell, they may even give you a lease on a company car. They do so much for their employees when they're middle management. And they do practically nothing for everybody else. So, anyways, it's not terrible. It could be worse. But it could be a lot better. And should be. They could afford to make it better for you. You know how much money McDonald's makes per year in profits? I'm not saying revenue. I mean profit. The amount of money McDonald's brings in every year that's extra that doesn't have to be spent on anything other than putting it in their pockets at the end of the day. In fact, This is the amount that they get after they line their pockets with gold. They made $13.2 billion in profits after they paid their CEO, after they paid their CFO and their accounting departments and their board members and their everybody. $13 billion. And how many employees do they have? They have 200,000 employees, right? So let's be generous and say McDonald's keeps $2 billion in profits, right? That's $11 billion that they could keep, that they could take in those profits and split among those 200,000 employees. That would be $55,000 additional dollars per year per employee. Additional. That includes everybody from the CEO to the middle manager to the cashier. $55,000 a year they could afford to pay you. To pay everybody and still profit $2 billion a year. They don't treat you well. They don't treat you the way that you should be treated. They don't pay you what you're worth. So anyway, yeah, I just want to go on that tangent. The people in your store are probably super cool and nice and have nothing to do with the decisions that go along with stealing your labor. They're stealing from you by paying you what they're paying you at that shop. They're stealing minutes of your life that you'll never get back to enrich themselves. But that's not happening from your manager. Your manager's not doing that. They're probably not making much more than you are. It's the CEO that's doing that.